thank you for watching this week. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and I want to thank you so much for all that you've done to support me through watching the podcast. Some of you are partners with our ministry, and I just want to say thank you, and I believe this is going to be the best Christmas you've ever had. You know, for many of us, Christmas is our favorite time of the year. For me and my daughter, we just love when Christmas music's playing and we're driving around, shopping, decorating the Christmas tree. It's just so much fun. But for some people, it's a miserable time. It's sad, it's depressing, it's lonely, or they're thinking about all that wasn't accomplished over the year, and they start to feel discouraged, let down, their self-esteem goes down, and they're just depressed. But I want you to know it's never too late. It's never too late to do what God has put in your heart to do. And so I want you to stop looking back over the year with regret or with disappointment and start thinking, you know what? I've got a few days left, the remainder of this year, to start getting things in order so that 2015 turns out completely different. I'm telling you, God can accelerate things in your life. Something that you thought would take 5 years could happen in 1 year. Something you thought would take 10 years could happen in 3 years. God has a way of accelerating our progress when we get focused. So, in addition to wishing you a Merry Christmas, I also want to teach you something this week that I believe has the potential to absolutely transform your life and catapult you into a whole new level. Jim Rohn, one of the greatest motivational speakers that ever lived, he had this phrase. He said, if you work hard on your job, you can make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Now, when he first heard that phrase from his mentor, he said he was 26 years old, working at Sears, making $57 a week as a stock clerk. When he stopped working so hard on his job that he put more focus and attention on working on himself, within 5 years, by the time he was 31 years old, he was a millionaire. Within 5 years. What happened? He got on a continual growth plan for himself. Now that's the key I want to share with you this week. If you want to accelerate your progress, you want to see more achieved in your life over the next year than you have possibly the past 5 years combined, then get on a quest for continual growth. Get on a growth plan for you. I recently heard a story about a taxi driver named Vince Robert from Ottawa, Canada. Said he had a 7th grade education and he just began driving taxis for years and years and years. Well, at 37 years old, for some reason, he decided to make a change. He walked into a bookstore one day, he said it was a 20-pound Webster's dictionary he bought, sat it in the front seat of his taxi, and he said when he was sitting there waiting for customers, he just opened it up to page 1. And he began reading the first word, and he began memorizing it until he read the whole entire page. He said he did that every single day, just waiting for customers. He sat there and read and began to grow himself. Well, as he began to learn things, he said a whole new world began to open up for him. He began to understand things he'd only heard people talk about in the back of his cab. He began to desire better things. And he said all of a sudden he had this idea. He thought, I'm going to take the largest fare of every day and put it in an investment account. Now, at the same time, as he began reading that dictionary, he also began learning, listening to CDs or tapes, putting them in the player and listening while he's sitting there waiting for people, using every available pocket of time to grow himself. So every day he takes his largest fare, put it in an investment account. He said he did this for years, and he passed up on things he wanted now for what he wanted later. Like he didn't buy expensive clothes, he didn't go on expensive trips, he didn't buy expensive cars. He said he just kept investing in that account. Well, Vince Robert eventually ended up owning the cab company. But it all started one day with one book, page 1. He started growing himself. What would happen if you got on a quest for continual growth? Warren Buffett, he said on an interview recently, he said when he was 20 years old, he took a $100 bill and bought a Dale Carnegie course. He said that was the best investment I've ever made. He said at that time in my life, I couldn't speak in public. I was nervous. He said I was a total disaster. He said when you invest in yourself, he said it pays 1,000 to 1. The best investment you could ever make is in yourself. growing yourself with the books you read, the CDs you listen to, the conferences you attend. You know, that's part of the reason I have the next conference, is for you to take time away from everything else and invest in you. Make an investment in yourself. I'm telling you, when I began doing that, it changed my whole world. You know, I shared at a Success Conference recently how I started one day with one CD. But listen to this. When I graduated from college, I remember one of the dumbest things I ever said was I said, I will never study again. And I lived up to that promise for 11 years. For 11 years, I worked hard on my job. I worked late, I worked weekends, I worked nights, long hours. I wrote over 25 books for other authors as a ghostwriter. But every day, I went to work, I went home. I listened to the radio, I sang, I danced, on my way to work, on the way home. Never read books for pleasure or for education. I just watched TV for hours. Well, that was for 11 years after graduating from college. The next 11 years, when I began growing myself, starting one day with one CD, starting one afternoon with one book, I went from attending conferences to speaking at conferences. I went from ghostwriting books to writing books. I went from watching TV for hours to co-hosting a TV show. What happened? I went to work harder on myself than I did on my job, and my whole world changed. The same thing can happen for you, but I'm telling you, like John Maxwell says, growth must be intentional. It must be strategic and it must be planned. It doesn't just happen. It's not coincidental. You don't just, when you're a kid, people say, "My, look how much you've grown." But as an adult, it doesn't happen that way. You have to plan your growth. It has to be strategic. You have to say, every day this week, Monday through Friday, I'm going to listen to a motivational CD while I'm getting ready. I'm going to invest in a conference that'll cause me to grow. I'm going to go to the next conference. In fact, today, I'm going to sign up online, pay the fee, and invest in my growth in 2015. That's how strategic you have to be. And I'm telling you from experience, that's what I've had to do. I've had to invest in seminars, invest in books. But you know what? I'm not the girl I used to be. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I don't think the same. I don't live the same. I don't dream the same. Everything about my life changed when I began growing me. So I want to challenge you. This could be the missing key, that maybe you've had some regrets this year and you're saying, God, I want 2015 to be so much better. This is what you need to do. Invest in yourself. I'm telling you, just like Jim Rohn said, if you invest in yourself, you can make a fortune. So, success is something you attract by the person you become. If you want more, you must become more. Those are words from Jim Rohn's mentor, Oral Shoaf. So I want to challenge you to do that. And if you're enjoying these podcasts, please subscribe to this channel. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook so I can keep you continually motivated to see your dreams fulfilled. So also be sure to register for the next conference because it is limited. We don't have like this massive arena where anybody can come. It's a limited seating. So I want you to make sure you reserve your spot so I can teach you in person how to achieve your dreams. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Merry Christmas!